All right, guys, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to our third online session for International Human Resource Management. Right, I know I'm seeing about 15 students so far, participants. I know more will join us and so on as the session progresses. I trust all is well. Right, I know things are escalating very quickly with COVID-19. I hope we are obeying the necessary safety measures and so on. Right. I know that over the past 2 weeks, we have been discussing your coursework assignment number 2, right? And we have been going through quite a lot, right, in terms of the assignment, working your assignment, appreciating the requirements for the assignment, right? And today, now we want to continue with this trend of looking at the assignment. At the end of each sessions over the past 2 weeks, I would have emailed material and so on to you all, right, with you. Again, I trust that you have started working on your assignment, right? I know that at this time you may have some more, during this period rather, you will have some more free time, right, to work on the assignment, right? To work on your assignment. I hope that you are in fact doing the necessary essential reading and further reading for the assignment, right? And getting your thoughts together. Right? Everyone should get A's in this assignment because of the added time that you will now have to work on your assignment. The assignment, I suspect, is due around April 29th. Is that correct? Right? Around April 29th is the anticipated due date for the assignment. Nalini, Bridget, is that correct? April 29th. April 29th. Can someone confirm that in the chat? Okay, great. Right, Akil, right, Akil, Kemba, somewhere between the 27th to the 29th. So you guys can verify. Right, my deadline, right, to submit for review is April 20th. Right, April 20th. Assignments submitted after April 20th will not be reviewed. Right, April 20th. Right. So that should be a very reachable assignment deadline to submit to me for a review, right? April 20th. Right, deadline to submit for review, April the 20th, right? Some students have emailed me their completed assignment already because they are capitalizing on the time, right? So some of them have emailed. I got at least 2 or 3 of them fully completed, right? For the first review, for the review. Only 1 review per student. So make sure it is your best piece of work, right? Only 1 review, right, per student. Make sure it is your best piece of work, right? So let's go into today's agenda. Let's go into today's agenda, and I'm going to share my screen, right? I'm going into today's agenda. I'm going to share my screen. Right, today's agenda. Let's quickly recap the assignment requirements, the broad requirements. Get April 29th, I believe, is the coursework submission date. Right, it's an individual report, right? Individual report. Assignment title: formulate a pestle analysis for a British MNC establishing a subsidiary in Malaysia. Right, so formulate a pestle analysis for a British MNC, is a British MNC establishing a subsidiary in Malaysia. The description of the assignment: you are an independent external HR consultant employed to advise the British MNC on what they will need to consider in order to establish a subsidiary in Malaysia. You are expected to write a 2,000 word plus or minus word report, right? The following are very important, right, to note. What are the important factors multinational corporations have to consider when setting up of HR functions in different geographic locations internationally? 2, critically analyze which functions can be managed from headquarters and which functions can be local, right? And three, provide a rationale for your reasoning and advantages of having a local focus in your chosen functions, right? In your chosen function. So I just thought we would rehash, right? What is the assignment all about for this afternoon? Not so, right? What is the assignment all about? Are you required to discuss at least 3 to 5 of the factors that the multinational will have to consider, right, in deciding whether to, transfer their HRM practices to the Malaysian subsidiary market, or to employ Malaysian-based HRM practices in the new subsidiary that the UK multinational, right, is establishing. So we have the theoretical underpinnings and so on, and things that you might want to consider, right? Yeah. Okay. And this afternoon, we want to go through this excerpt right here, things you may want to consider. We have started going through them over the past 2 weeks, right? To get an A grade, these elements must be included. To get an A grade, these elements must be included, right? Must be included in your essay, in your write-up. Now, please note, it is a two-part assignment. The first part is to formulate the personal analysis, that's it, all right, of the UK multinationals establishing a new subsidiary in Malaysia. And the second part is the discussion of the factors that the company will need to consider, right, good, as they seek to what? Employ HRM functions and manage staff in a new subsidiary in Malaysia. So, right? So this afternoon, we want to go through this item here. Right, to this end, I would have created a new document, right, a prep document for this afternoon session. I have not yet emailed it, so it's a new document, right? It's a new document. I have not yet emailed it, right? International Human Resource, right? International, right? Human Resource Management online session, prep on coursework assignment number 2, right? Saturday, 4th April 2020, right? Saturday, 4th April 2020. And depending on how time permits and our discussion goes, we're going to start it today and finish it up next week. Again, as well as review some sample assignments, right? Again, the outcomes for today: 1, key requirements, themes for the assignment. And this is taken from the assignment brief, right? This is taken from the assignment brief, reviewing the 4 influences framework, see textbook chapter, page 392, reviewing Black's model of expatriate adjustment, discussion of push and pull factors, and then reviewing the localization debate. So these are some issues that must be factored in as you start to write this report, in assuming your role as the HR consultant advising the board of this British multinational, right? These are all 5 learning outcomes. Yeah? Right? Copy and paste it straight from the assignment brief. Key requirements, key themes for the assignment report. Right? Key themes, right, for the assignment report. Right? For the assignment report, key themes. Okay? Things that you might want to consider. Right? Things that you might want to consider for the assignment. We would have spoken about the sustainability debate already, the sustainability debate, right? Sustainability means that the new subsidiary should not fail in the new environment in Malaysia. No multinational will set up a subsidiary in a new location and would want it to fail, right? In many cases, a multinational such as this British MNC may want to use HRM functions that have worked in the parent country of the UK, and will want to transfer across those parent company HRM functions to the Malaysian climate because it worked well back in Great Britain, right? It worked very well in Great Britain. Now, at the same time, conversely, right, managing people in Malaysia may employ different HRM practices as that of Great Britain, as that of the British. So in order to compete effectively against domestic competitors in the Malaysian climate, it may make sense that the new subsidiary, in order to be prosperous, may be given the autonomy to use Malaysian styles of HRM functions and not necessarily, use British HRM functions. The Holland's Head, one of the key essential readings, right? Key essential readings for this spoke, quite handsomely, right, on this issue, spoke quite handsomely on this issue. So when discussing the whole sustainability debate, you must hold the Holland's Head, right? You must discuss sustainability, and as you discuss sustainability, right? As you discuss sustainability, you must reference the work of Holland's Head in his textbook, right? As alluded to by the examiner. Right, definitely so, not so guys, right? Hofstede's theory and notions of cultural familiarization and adaptation, right? We would have spoken about Hofstede's theory last week, where we looked at the Hofstede's cultural model of Great Britain and Hofstede's theory of Malaysia and its application to Malaysia, noting how the two cultures different. Not so? Right, so right, this model will show how the two cultures will differ. Not so, right? Right, how the two cultures will differ, meaning the British culture and the Malaysian culture, right? And this cultural gap, right, will suggest, this cultural gap will suggest, right, proper expatriate, right, training and adjustment for senior managers, for senior expat managers being deployed across the managed subsidiary in Malaysia, not so, right? So we spoke about that last week. So it must include the work of Hofstede and how you're going to apply it to the two different cultures and what it would mean, right, for HRM functions in the UK now, right? Now, it will also suggest, and just point out to you, right, in managing, right, staff performance, possibly via, performance appraisals, right? The model, right, may suggest, right, that culture variables, right, be used in the appraisal instrument, right? That Malaysian culture variables, that Malaysian cultural variables be used in the appraisal instrument. Not so. And this is right, which is quite different, which is different to the UK. Not so, right? Because performance appraisals in the UK is quite regimented, westernized, and so on. Doesn't take into consideration, right, cultural issues or cultural variables and according to national culture. So this is how we have to link, right, the HRM function of recruitment, HRM function of training, HRM function of performance appraisals back to the cultural factor, right, and Hofstede's theory, not so guys. So you'll notice you must have a clear link. You must have a clear link between the factor you are discussing and how it will influence the HRM function used in the new subsidiary. And that's important, right? And that's important. So you must show the link between the factor, right, being discussed, right? The factor being discussed, right? Right? The factor being discussed. And that's, excuse me, I'm gonna Fine. So you must show, sorry about that. You must show the link between the factor being discussed and the IHRM function. You must show the link, right, between, right, the factor being discussed, right, and and the IHRM function, right, that will be used in the new, right, subsidiary. We must show that link, not so, guys, right? So let's just say, let us say you are discussing, right? Let's just say you're discussing cultural factors. Cultural factors, right? What is the relation to, right, recruitment, right? What is the relation to recruitment, right, in Malaysia, right? The, right, in Malaysia. What is the, right? What is the relation to, as we saw above, performance appraisals, right, of staff in Malaysia, right? Now, so, yeah, you have to show that connection. Let's say you are discussing parent, right, parent company, right, factors, or parent company factors, or let's say nothing for this country of origin, right, country of origin, right, country of origin, right, right, country of origin, right, what is the relationship to recruitment? Recruitment, obviously familiar with the theory that will encourage what? Ethnocentric staffing, also, right? Recruitment, training, compensation, right? Compensation, and this is what we need to see, not so, right? And this is what we need to see. If you're discussing, let's say, post-country factors, like factors in Malaysia, not so, factors in Malaysia, then, right, this will influence what? Polycentric staffing, right? Possibly polycentric staffing, probably compensation, paying according to local rates, right? It will affect possibly, right, industrial relations, not so, industrial relations. All these are the human resource functions which are likely to be influenced by the factor that you are discussing, not so, which is why the examiner told you in the brief, don't discuss more than 5 factors, between 3 to 5 factors, because you have to explore how the factor influences the type of HRM function used in a new subsidiary in Malaysia, right? So I wanted to underscore that based on the reviews I would have done so far on about the 2 assignments received. Yeah. Very exciting stuff. and just took the opportunity to consume, right, a hot beverage like coffee, which is COVID repellent, right? Right. So the functions of IHRM, which will link to what critical factors are in decision making before moving to a new location, and possible discussions of systems and good practice conversions. E, cross-cultural issues that require knowledge, understanding, and adaptation from MNCs to be successful, and possible host country effects. Right, cross-cultural issues that require knowledge and adaptation for MNCs to be successful. Right, so obviously, right, cultural factors, right? Obviously, what they are saying here, right? Right, cultural factors in Malaysia, right, may cultural factors in Malaysia, right, will influence, right, a localization strategy where local HRM functions are likely to be used, will influence a localization strategy, right, right, possibly using what, polycentric staffing, right? Polycentric staffing or polycentric what? Compensation, polycentric compensation, right? Compensation, polycentric compensation, or even what? Localized training, or even what? Localized, right? Training approaches, or even localized training approaches, right? F, legal requirements and local processes, right? Systems and procedures, government and local government requirements. These issues, right? These issues here falls under legal requirements and local processes, under institutional theory. Now, so as I would have pointed out last week and discussed last week with you all extensively, now so institutional theory, the situational factors in Malaysia that will influence the localization of HRM functions in its new subsidiary. The four influences framework, which we are going to discuss very shortly, that must be factored in. Now, so you're going to pass the report, you're going to pass this assignment based on how extensively have you included these items in your write-up, right? Based on how extensively have you included these items in your write-up. Not so. Then H, application and discussion of ethnocentrism, polycentrism, and egocentrism with application to practical examples being cited. Again, application good. So this can be introduced in the introduction, right? So include in the introduction, right? Include in the introduction a definition of hosts and local managers and the importance of deciding which to use in moving to a new location, right? Right. This is definitely to include in the introduction a definition of what, right? A definition of host and local. Not so, and this is when you know what, open up the debate on right, on standardization, right? Standardization and localization also, right? And I get to speak about multinational orientations, such as what they spoke to about it, such as ethnocentric, right? Polycentric, and geocentric. That's so. So all of this have to be included in the introduction. Not so, guys. In the introduction. Also, good. a discussion of localization. We are hoping to discuss that today, where the whole localization debate, we are hoping to discuss that today. Also, right, and then where appropriate, better answers may discuss the specific issues of moving to a developing nation and impacts of foreign direct investment. So definitely, right, this should be included in the introduction again also, right? Malaysia is a newly developing economy, and they would have, offered various operating and financial incentives to attract this British MNC, and we call these incentives FDI, foreign direct investment incentives, FDI incentives to attract British multinationals. And this has been the case over the past, 20 years. That is why there's a particular British Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, because there's a lot of British companies operating Malaysia. And that is why these British companies in Malaysia have their own Chamber of Commerce to regulate business operations of these British multinationals in Malaysia. So definitely, right, this whole notion of FDI and that connection must be made in the introduction paragraph. Not so, guys, right? Definitely not so. Again, so we must have some order, right, to your academic report. Not so. And then we have Black's model of in-country adjustment, which we are going to discuss today. Not so, guys, which we are going to discuss today. Black's model of in-country adjustment. Yeah? Black's model of in-country adjustment. Right, go to the chat now. Right, any questions? Right, thus far. Any questions? Was any chat? Any questions thus far? From anybody? Any questions? Bridget, Kemba, Atil, Christiana? Any questions? Kemba? Bridget? Okay, excellent. No questions, right? So I can continue. Right, Bridget, very good. Good. We now want to review the 4 influences framework. See the textbook chapter, page 392. The 4 influences framework came from the famous text, which I emailed the class very early on, the Hazing's text, which I emailed the class. We should all have a soft copy of this textbook, right? So I'm going to pull up this textbook. You can do so as well. You can do so as well, right? Excellent. share the textbook? Good. Right? International Human Resource Management. Right, this textbook I would have emailed you on also. Let's go to page 393 as identified. And we are looking for the 4 influences framework, not so. Right? It's actually the right, in section 2, the transfer of employment practices across borders in multinational companies. Right? The 4 influences framework is on page 394. Right? So we're going to skim through the chapter very quickly. Right? Good. I know you have the textbook and we'll read it in a greater level of detail. The 4 influences framework is a framework which attempts to explain the transfer of IHRM practices from parent country to host country. The framework consists of 4 key influences on the nature and form of the transfer of practices across borders. The influences arise from the interaction of, first, the differences between national business systems and the growing internationalization of economic activity. Now, you may have already decided upon your 3 to 5 factors that you are going to discuss. That's all. But you have to sort of categorize it and allude to, right, the 4 influences framework. Right? So I want to say country of origin effect is a factor as identified in the 4 influences framework, and they put the book reference. That's just one way to do it, right? The country of origin effect is obviously the British share, right? It's obviously the UK country of origin. And it can also be grouped as the parent country factors, parent country or parent company factors. I would prefer parent country factors. Good? Sticking with the country of origin effect. That is, the country in which the multinational originates create a distinctive national effect on management style in general, and on the nature of employment practices in particular. So the country of origin effect might present a case for the standardization of HRM practices in the Malaysian subsidiary, meaning that the British MNC may want to use similar type HRM practices in Malaysia, right, as that practice back home in Great Britain. Okay? A range of sources indicates that even the largest MNCs retain strong roots in their home country. So you may find that such companies might want to practice a sort of ethnocentric sort of orientation, right? They want to practice a sort of ethnocentric sort of orientation. They want to practice a sort of ethnocentric sort of orientation. And right away get the avenue to discuss, right, those issues. Now, at this point in time, I would say there's a lot of issues you have to discuss for this assignment. And if you do not know how to, avoid using redundant words and so on, you're going to find you're going to exceed the word limit very, very quickly. So you must have a good command of the English language to use fewer words to convey your message. As you use fewer words to convey your message, you get the opportunity to discuss more technical content. And discussion of more technical content will give you the mark that you desire. So you can't have, a long-winded way of saying things, right? Yeah. So that's the country of origin effect. The country of origin effect, right? Very simple. And we scroll down to the other influence in the 4 influences framework. I believe the other factor is dominance. Dominance. Yes, dominance effects. Dominance. Right, the dominance effect. Very good. Given that actors have scope to observe and implement practices from countries other than the country of origin, What influences, how do they go about, what influences how they go about this process? And we read that, given the actors have scope to observe and implement practices from countries other than the country of origin, what influences how they go about this process? A key factor in this respect is their perceptions of the strengths and weaknesses of the economic performance across countries. Strong performance in one country gives rise to interest in the borrowing of elements of that business system by firms in other countries. Smith and Miskins argue that the hierarchy of economies within the international system gives rise to dominance effect. At any one time, they argue, right, countries in dominant positions have frequently evolved methods of organizing production or the division of labor which have invited emulation interests. Right? In terms of the impact of transfer employment practices, the logic of the dominance effect argument is that such transfer is not solely created by the legacy and force of institutions, but is also shaped by competitive pressures at the international level. Now, what does this factor mean? Dominance. Dominance does not imply that the UK multinational, being a westernized economy, will want to use British-style HRM functions. It does not imply that. It suggests that a multinational is open, right? Is open to any range of HRM functions that will work in the Malaysian context. Now, in the Malaysian context, the Malaysian subsidiary will be competing against other local domestic operators in the Malaysian market. The Malaysian context may have their own stable HRM functions that have proven to work in Malaysia over time. And these HRM functions might be very dominant in Malaysia, and rival competitors might be successful using them in the Malaysian context. Then, because they are dominant in Malaysia and they have proven to work and achieve the desired levels of business performance, then it will make sense to use, in this case, right, Malaysian HRM functions and adhere to the localization of HRM functions in the Malaysian context, right? So dominance does not imply, as the word suggests, the parent company is dominant. They are talking about dominant economic factors, dominant, right, HRM functions that have proven to work in Malaysia, as it relates to the assignment, that is. As it relates to the assignment, that is. So you must find a way to incorporate the four influences framework, not so, right? Which is why I told some students in the review, resubmit it because a lot of the factors have not been discussed. Yeah? And these are the issues that must be discussed according to the assignment if we are seeking an A grade. Not so. The assignment is not a walkover, right? The third factor, the third influence, and the four influences framework. The third element of the framework concerns the extent to which MNCs are internationally integrated, defined as the generation of inter-unit linkages across borders. A number of recent developments has created scope for MNCs to build stronger linkages between their international operations. In relation to product markets, differences in consumer tastes appear to have narrowed, a process to which advertising and marketing strategy of MNCs themselves have contributed. Whilst there has also been a trend towards deregulation of many markets, making it easier for firms to realize synergistic linkages between their subsidiaries. So, does the British MNC have many subsidiaries scattered all over the world? We are just speaking about one new subsidiary, which is about to start up in Malaysia. Right? Now, the factor is international integration. International integration, right? Accordingly, many MNCs have strengthened the inter-unit linkages in developing new structures for their international operations. In particular, many have moved away from country-based structures towards organizing themselves around global divisions or regional blocks, so that comparable operations are linked together. For example, IBM's operations are not structured along lines of various countries in which the firm operates, such as IBM China or IBM Canada. Rather, they are organized into global divisions, such as software and services, regional blocks, such as Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and North America. So, the Malaysian subsidiary in Malaysia, obviously, right, may be one subsidiary that the British MNC may have. Yeah? Well, the British multinational want all their subsidiaries scattered all over the globe to be using the same kind of IHRM functions for consistency. Will the British MNC want that? Strive for international integration, where all subsidiaries use the same, possibly, styles of HRM functions, right, as that practice in the British parent company in the UK? This raises a question here, right? Yeah, it raises a question here, not so. Yeah? Be mindful, there are many British MNCs operating in Malaysia to such a large extent, right? These British MNCs in Malaysia have their own chamber of commerce. Right? So that suggests to us, right, some notions of ethnocentric or standardization of IHRM functions in Malaysia. Yeah? International integration. That's the third influence. The fourth influence, by its very title, is a bit straightforward: host country effects. There are a number of aspects of national business system which can limit the scope a multinational has to transfer practices. And you see, note how they phrase that. This posits a case for the localization or polycentrism, a polycentric orientation that the British MNC may want to practice in Malaysia, polycentric, because there are some HRM functions in the Malaysian climate that the company may want to use. The system of employment law, possibly to a greater or lesser degree, poses constraints to employers in implementing practices at workplace level. Institutional factors, I just item institutional factors. So if you're speaking about host country effects, it must be alluding to, excuse me, it must be alluding to institutional factors. Moreover, the nature of key labor market institutions such as unions and worker councils present similar limitations, both directly through affecting the form of employee representation and indirectly through the impact these institutions are able to exert on other areas of employment relations. Good, and that's host country effects. Again, under host country effects is so broad. Host country effects may have two streams: cultural factors, cultural factors in Malaysia, which encourages localization, right? And the other stream might be institutional factors in Malaysia, which encourages localization. But host country effects might be just very broad term, but there are two streams of host country effects, right? Cultural factors are institutionalization, or right? Institutional theory. So you might be seeing there are many permutations by which you can, right, get the proper statement of the factors, whether it's parent country factors or host country factors, right? Cultural factors and institutional factors. So this chapter is a must read, right? Again, as a must read, as we propose to discuss the 4 influences framework in your assignment. Okay? So I thought I would have alluded to this chapter here. Right? Again, so I'm now going back to my prep document. So we have covered this, right? We have covered, right? Review the 4 influences framework, right? Review the 4 influences framework. We have covered that, right? Then I'm going to unmute all just to get some feedback from you all, right? I'm going to unmute all your mics.
Hello.
Any feedback? Any feedback? On what we have discussed so far?
This one, yeah.
Anybody want to speak? Any feedback?
What is that? What is time?
We're doing?
What is that? What is that?
Any feedback?
What's it?
No?
What? A man now job on the table. So why are you going out with it?
Right, any feedback?
For example?
The mics are open, eh?
Well,
All right, so we are shy.
Oh.
Not really? Who said that? No comments on what we are discussing? How far have you reached in the assignment?
test analysis.
Custom analysis, then you, okay, good.
Yes.
Right. Say your name and tell me.
Ian.
Ian. Right, Nalini, how far you reached in the assignment?
I did the test analysis of the technology.
Of the technology, right?
Yeah. So I do the standardization versus localization now.
Right, good, good.
So I'll do some of the feedback you just give us there so I could incorporate that into the assignment.
Okay, right, very good.
Yeah.
Ian,
Yes.
how far have you reached?
How?
How far have you reached in the assignment?
I did the pest analysis. I did the introduction and of the pest analysis. So I get some information on the technological factors and social factors, economic factors in Malaysia as compared to the
Right.
British.
Nikisha, how far are you reaching your assignment?
Paid her to take care of you.
Nikisha, how far are you reaching your assignment? The mic is open. Hold up. Vanessa, how far are you reaching your assignment? Bobita, how far are you reaching your assignment? Bobita, how far?
Bobby?
Bridget,
Sir,
how far are you reaching your assignment?
nowhere.
Nowhere? Why?
Starting this week.
Starting this week. I'm impressed.
I had a death in my family, so I was
Okay,
just taking
okay.
some time.
Right. My condolences, sympathies.
Thank you.
Marie,
Yes, smile! Yes, man!
sympathy. Marie,
Smile!
Sheldon,
I giving you all special attention.
oh yes, I deserve special attention.
Yes, so
Making progress, right?
in progress.
It's heavy, eh? There's a lot of reading and material to amalgamate for this write-up, eh? And to write it, put it together in 2,000 words, maximum 2,200 words, is a real skillful task. Yeah?
Yeah.
So you have to do some, you guys have to do some readings. Kavit, right? So I'm going to mute all the microphones and get back to it, right? Good. Right, reviewing Black's model of expatriate adjustment. Right, Black's model of expatriate adjustment. Now, Black, Mendel, and Uru, 1991, right, attempted to explain the cross-cultural adjustment process for expatriates. Let us say that the British MNC, right, favors an ethnocentric sort of orientation in a new subsidiary. That will give rise to use expatriates for senior management in the Malaysian subsidiary. The British culture might be very different to that of the Malaysian culture, and you all will tell me why, based on Hofstede, right? Because of these cultural differences or the culture gap, expatriates may have some difficulty in adjusting to the Malaysian environment. Black and Mendenhall and Udo model attempted to explain cross-cultural adjustment in two broad streams: anticipatory adjustment and in-country adjustment. Anticipatory adjustment and in-country adjustment. Anticipatory adjustment will involve before the appointment, right? If the expatriate being deployed has previous international experience, if you provide the expatriate with cross-cultural training, taking the format of videos and seminars and case studies, and reading journal articles of the Malaysian climate, if you properly select the expatriate, all these are anticipatory factors that will suggest the expatriate will adjust, right, comfortably in the new environment. That adjustment comfortably in the new environment could be considered cultural familiarization. And as a theme that you can just mention, right, cultural familiarization will become much more apparent if, right, you spend some more effort, right, on anticipatory adjustment for the expatriate before taking up the position. The other stream of in-country adjustment, right, other stream is in-country adjustment, and that is broken down into work adjustment, interaction adjustment, and general adjustment, right? And general adjustment. And general adjustment. Work adjustment will be adjusting to the role the technical requirements of the role, right? Adjusting to work colleagues, having that interpersonal social communication skills, right? Having the capability to perform the technical requirements of the role. Let's say this person is a manager or a leader or engineer or a scientist. Now, so interaction adjustment again speaks to communication adjustment, being able to work well with Malaysian natives, having strong communication interpersonal skills. It begs us to consider what is the national language of Malaysia? What is the national language of Great Britain? Are they same? Are there any language barrier issues? And then we have genre adjustment, such as family adjustment issues. The expatriate may not relocate alone. He may relocate with his or her family. Not so? He may relocate with his or her, he may relocate with his or her family. Not so, right? With his or her family, so it might be family adjustment issues, adjustment to the infrastructure, utility, transportation systems, the cuisine, right? Malaysia may have particular local beliefs and local practices, right? Local beliefs and local practices, yeah. Right, so these three forms of expatriate adjustment. So the moment you start speaking about ethnocentric and so on, right, you must find the opportunity, that loophole, that trigger to speak about Black's model, to show the examiner how you can link the theory to what you are discussing that should happen in the Malaysian subsidiary, right? Black's model also speaks about, right, the degree of adjustment. And look at this graphic here on my screen. Degree of adjustment. Look at it. Right, so degree of adjustment, right? Yeah, now the expatriate being appointed might be highly excited to take up the appointment, right? Going through that period of anticipatory adjustment, consuming training, knowing about the Malaysian context. The person is immersed in the position, makes the journey to Malaysia, immersed in the position, that's the honeymoon period. As the person starts to perform the job, the expatriate starts to perform the job, interact with others, adjust to home life, family life, work life, understand the environment in which she or she is placed, the person might quickly realize the cultural gap, the cultural dissonance between the Malaysian context and what he or she is accustomed to back home in Great Britain. The person now experiences, due to the culture gap, culture shock, right? Okay? The more training, the more anticipatory adjustment that will cushion the blow of culture shock. Eventually, the person starts to appreciate the Malaysian context, forms, right, network with others in the Malaysian environment, form social networks, professional networks, understand the language, beliefs, local norms and habits, and the person starts to adjust. Then, eventually, in about 3 to 4 to 5 years' time, the expatriate would now master the Malaysian context and be almost totally familiar with the Malaysian environment. But look at the period of time, 3 to 4 to 5 years. Although Black's model suggests, right, the forms of adjustment that the expatriate will go through, the larger question is, do you think a multinational has that period of time to wait on an expatriate to adjust to the foreign environment, then for the subsidiary to be successful? Do you think a parent company has that period of time to wait on an expatriate to adjust? That's the big question. Yeah? And right away, that's the drawback of Black's model here. Yeah? Again, reviewing Black's model of expatriate adjustment. Reviewing Black's model of expatriate adjustment. Yeah? Our fourth area of discussion, right, for this afternoon is push and pull factors. Yeah? Push and pull factors. I must be considered. Push and pull factors. Yeah? Many multinational companies must make a decision whether to manage their subsidiaries based on host country principles, argument for localization, or to be managed by a different set, and furthermore, decide which route is more effective and efficient for them. MNCs are perceived as tools that convey globalization, managerial knowledge, and spread best practices around the world. These MNCs face the complexity of institutional factors in those countries that counterbalance the effect of standardization. In other words, Farley et al. Explains that MNCs deal with push-pull influences. In other words, look at the reference, Farley et al. 2004, very recent. I calls the concept of push-pull. Now, push effects can be described when a parent company pushes its policies and practices onto their subsidiaries. And that's the debate for, that's the trigger for standardization of HRM functions in the new subsidiary in Malaysia, when parent companies push their parent company practices onto the new subsidiary. In contrast, pull effects regards to the localized influences that avoid standardization. But then if you avoid standardization in local context, then you are, right? Then you are encouraging the localization of HRM functions in a new subsidiary. That's all. So what incentives or pull factors in the Malaysian climate that will somewhat force and mandate the subsidiary to use Malaysian HRM functions? Several authors conclude different factors that contribute to push-pull influences. As mentioned above, many supporters of the convergence look for best practice, which is applicable in all organizations. Right? Chairman Wilson states standard practices among parent company and subsidiaries bring coherence and it leads to efficiency. The standard practices among parent company leads to efficiency. There's this additional reading. Right? Lou and B. Ockman, 1987, discuss how non-financial contributions like technology, skill, and know-how from the parent company increase the probability of standardization. Or say they conclude that an increasing number of expatriates and subsidiaries is a push influence. So they drill down into the factors of push and the factors of pull. Now let me try to code it for you. Right? What are some push factors? Right? Push factors. Push factors. Parent company. Parent company major factors. Not so. For economies of scale. For economies of scale. For consistency. For consistency. Right? To infuse parent company culture. The company will want to push its HRM functions onto the Malaysian subsidiary. Not so, right? Then, right, parent company factors, for example, right, dominant management style. Even the method of founding, right, of the new subsidiary. Right? Is it a wholly owned subsidiary? I believe it is. Right? By the British MNC. By the British MNC. Push factors. Right? Parent company pushing its HRM functions onto the new, right, subsidiary in the Malaysian context. Right? So you need to discuss this as well. Allude it. Then you may have what? Some pull factors. Some pull factors. Yeah? Right? Yeah? What do you think are some pull factors which will encourage, right, the localization of HRM functions in the Malaysian context? What do you think? Let's take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. I want 5 pull factors. 5. Let's see if you understand this whole debate. 5 factors based in the Malaysian context that will force the multinational to use Malaysian styles of HRM functions. What factors have we come up with? Pull factors. Yeah. So definitely we can suggest host country culture. Not so? Host country culture, the national business system, right, in Malaysia. Not so? Local laws and regulations. Not so? Right? Again, the education and training environment and its ability to provide, right, skilled workers. Not so? Again, host country government, right, requirements. Not so? The host country Malaysian government may have their own requirements that multinationals have to comply with. Not so? Again, right, local, good, industrial relation, right, trends, local industrial relation trends between employer and trade unions. Not so? Competitive pressures, right, from local operators in the Malaysian market. This is where you speak about isomorphic theory. Isomorphic theory. Not so? Isomorphic theory. Yeah. Where a subsidiary eventually conforms to, right, the host country environment in which it is placed, right? So all these are some pull factors, class, thereby encouraging the localization of HRM functions, right? So one factor you could be discussing is pull factors. And you group all these issues like institutional variables and cultural variables and all these things, you simply lump it under pull factors. That's just one way to approach it. That's why the examiner told you, don't speak about too many factors. Speak about 3 to 5 maximum. Not so. So it might be taking at least what 300, or might be taking about 300 words to discuss each factor. That's 900 words, 3 factors. Not so, guys. Yeah. This is very interesting. Not so, guys. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Very, very interesting. Not so, guys. Yeah. And then our last item is the whole localization debate. Localization. Yep. Right. There is the localization debate. What is localization? It's a hybrid term born out of a merger between global and local. Global HRM function suggests that, that subsidiaries and the parent company will use the same HRM functions. Local suggests that subsidiaries will be empowered to use host country HRM practices. Localization, it is about differentiation and adaptation of a company's global offer to local standards as to reach out to a wider audience while gearing their services to local needs. Various companies, mostly large, started transforming their offers and advertising campaigns depending on the requirements of the region of the world where they act. They may want to reach a wider scale of consumers. The first most known case of such strategy used is McDonald's, which introduced products characteristics for a given region on most foreign markets. on most foreign markets. Now, what localization really means is you have a British MNC, right? You have a British MNC. The British MNC obviously has a new subsidiary in Malaysia, right? Again, the British MNC, right, may also have, let's say, a new subsidiary, let's say in India, right? Right? A new subsidiary, let's say a new subsidiary, let's say in, right, let's say in Kenya, right? And let's say a new subsidiary, right, let's say in China, right? New subsidiary in Malaysia, India, and in China, not so. Again, the British MNC will have their standardized, or let's say their westernized IHRM functions. The westernized HRM functions. Their westernized HRM functions. The British MNC in Malaysia may decide to use what? Right, local HRM functions. Right? Its subsidiary in India may decide to use local HRM functions. The subsidiary in Kenya may decide to use, right, westernized HRM functions. Subsidiary in China may decide to use what? Westernized HRM functions. So here you have the British MNC having 4 subsidiaries, let's say hypothetically here. Now, 2 of its subsidiaries uses local HRM functions and the other 2 use what? Westernized HRM functions as that practice back home in Great Britain. So you have a mixture, right? With the mixture of IHRM functions used, right? This, right, mixture is called the localization. Is referred to as the localization of HRM. Is referred to as the localization of HRM. This is what they are saying here. You use global, but if you need to adapt to the local environment in which you operate, then adapt locally. So globalize the standards where you can, right? And localize where need be, right? Standardize HRM functions across all your subsidiaries where you can, but localize where need be. But let's bring it back to the question now, our assignment. Let's now bring it back, guys, to our assignment. You have a British MNC, hypothetically, using westernized HRM, functions. Right. This British MNC. Yep, but this British MNC, right, has a new subsidiary in Malaysia. As a new subsidiary in Malaysia. New subsidiary, guys, in Malaysia. No problem there. Then, what HRM functions would the British MNC use in Malaysia to manage staff there? Recruitment. And so, they use recruitment, training, performance appraisals, right? Right, industrial relations, right? And let's say compensation. And let's say compensation. Now, the British MNC may decide, hey, let's use ethnocentric and polycentric staffing Malaysia. Our training is the best. Let's use British or westernized training, right? Training. Performance appraisals, we need to adapt. So let's use local Malaysian performance appraisal systems, right? We need to influence trade unions in Malaysia, so we must use local right? Local styles of industrial relations. Compensation, we use both, right? Right, we use both, right? The compensation, the balance sheet approach for expats, right? And for locals, right? And for locals, right? And for locals, we use for locals employed, right? For locals employed, use local rates, polycentric, right? Polycentric compensation. So here we have 4 to 5 HRM functions. And depending on what works in the Malaysian context, you use local Malaysian HRM functions and you standardize the rest. So the subsidiary is empowered now to make a decision. We are going to use HRM functions that works in Malaysia according to the Malaysian context once we can achieve our goals. Right? If we find the Malaysian HRM function is not working, we are going to what? Do what we know best. Use British HRM functions. And as the whole debate for localization, where you can use a mixture of both local and parent company HRM functions. And that is what they are saying here. And that, folks, is the globalization debate, right? Where must this be included? Anywhere. It can be included possibly in your conclusion, in your body. You include in the body section, right? You can include in the body section or the conclusion. You can include in the body section, right, of your report, right, or the conclusion, Super stuff, guys. Really exciting. I'm going to unmute you all for questions. Questions? Any questions, guys? Any questions? Any questions?
No.
Get any questions? You all understand what we did today?
Yes.
Very good. Good job. Avita, very good. Excellent. Very good. Right? Excellent.
Why not?
There's no questions at this point in time, right? You're okay. I think we covered a great deal of work. I'm going to email this document to Jude, right? I'm going to email this document to Jude, right? And have Jude forward, right, to the team, right? Yeah? I have Jude forward to the team, right? I'm going to wish you guys, a good week. You'll be safe. Keep on working on your assignment. Any questions, please reach out. Work towards the submission deadline. Okay? Next week will be our last class. I'm going to ask Julie if you can have one more session. We'll see how it goes. Right? We're going to see how it goes. Right? If you can have one more session and close it off next week. Right? Yeah? So we're going to press pause. You all keep good. Right? Take care, guys. Yeah.